November 4th, 979. Tehran, Iran. An angry mob storms the United States Embassy. 52 American diplomats are taken hostage in what would become a 444-day international crisis. But what the world didn't know was that 6 Americans had escaped, and the CIA was about to pull off one of the most audacious rescue missions in espionage history. This is the true story of how Hollywood, the CIA, and a master of disguise created a fake movie to save 6 lives. A story so unbelievable, it fooled an entire nation. To understand this operation, we need to go back to where it all began. The Iranian Revolution of 1979 had transformed a U.S. ally into an enemy overnight. When revolutionaries breached the embassy walls, chaos erupted. While 52 Americans were captured, 6 managed to slip away into the streets of Tehran. Their names: Robert Anders, Cora Lijek, Mark Lijek, Joe Stafford, Kathleen Stafford, and Henry Lee Schatz. With nowhere to turn, they found sanctuary at the Canadian Embassy, hidden by Ambassador Ken Taylor. But this wasn't a solution, it was a ticking time bomb. Iranian Revolutionary Guards were conducting house-to-house searches. It was only a matter of time before they were discovered. Back in Washington, the CIA faced an impossible question. How do you extract 6 Americans from the heart of revolutionary Iran without starting a war? The answer would come from the most unlikely of sources, a CIA operative named Tony Mendez, and the world of Hollywood. Tony Mendez was the CIA's top exfiltration specialist. His job? Get people out of impossible situations. But this mission was different. This was personal. Mendez studied every option. Military rescue? Too risky after the failed Desert One operation. Smuggling them out overland? Iranian borders were sealed tight. Then, while watching a science fiction movie on television, inspiration struck. What if the 6 diplomats weren't diplomats at all? What if they were a Hollywood film crew, scouting exotic locations in Iran for a science fiction epic? The plan was audacious, borderline insane. To make it work, the CIA would need to create an entire fake Hollywood production company, complete with scripts, storyboards, and industry buzz. Mendez reached out to John Chambers, an Academy Award-winning makeup artist who had secretly worked with the CIA before. Together with producer Robert Seidel, they established Studio 6 Productions in Hollywood. They chose a script called Argo, a Star Wars-style space adventure set on a desert planet. The irony? Iran would provide the perfect backdrop. They took out advertisements in Variety and The Hollywood Reporter. They held script readings. They made it real. While Hollywood built their cover, the 6 Americans in hiding were being transformed. The CIA created complete false identities. Canadian passports, business cards, detailed backstories. Every person had to memorize their cover. One mistake, one hesitation, and they'd all be executed. Robert Anders became Robert Baker, a production designer. Mark and Cora Lijek were now location managers. Each received extensive training on their roles. They studied filmmaking terminology, learned to answer questions about the non-existent movie. January 27th, 1980. Tony Mendez flew into Tehran posing as a Hollywood producer. The city was a powder keg. Revolutionary Guards patrolled every street. One wrong move and the entire operation would collapse. Mendez had just 3 days to train the Americans, finalize their covers, and get them out. The clock was ticking. Intelligence suggested Iranian authorities were close to discovering the 6. At the Canadian ambassador's residence, Mendez drilled the 6 Americans relentlessly. What's your name? Where are you from? What's the movie about? Why are you in Iran? Every answer had to be automatic, natural. believable. But doubt crept in. What if the Revolutionary Guards didn't believe them? What if they checked with Hollywood and discovered Studio 6 was fake? What if they were recognized as embassy staff? January 28, 1980, dawn. The team left the Canadian embassy, for the last time, headed to Tehran's Mehrabad airport. This was it. No turning back. Inside the terminal, paranoia hung thick in the air. Revolutionary Guards scrutinized every passenger. The Americans, dressed in 1,970 seconds, Hollywood fashion, tried to project casual confidence while their hearts pounded. At the first checkpoint, a Revolutionary Guard examined their passports with suspicious eyes. He asked questions. Where are you going? Why were you in Iran? The Americans answered exactly as rehearsed. But the guard wasn't satisfied. He called over his supervisor. More questions. More scrutiny. Mendez maintained his composure, playing the role of the annoyed Hollywood producer. But inside, he was calculating escape routes, preparing for the worst. Then, after what felt like an eternity, the supervisor stamped their passports. They were through. But the danger wasn't over. As they waited at the gate, Revolutionary Guards began making phone calls. Were they verifying the story? Calling the embassy? The Americans couldn't know. All they could do was wait. Finally, boarding began. One by one, they walked across the tarmac to the Swissair flight. But even as they climbed the stairs, Mendez knew they weren't safe. Not until the plane was in the air. At 7:15 a.m., the Swissair DC-8 lifted off from Tehran. Only when they cleared Iranian airspace did anyone dare breathe. They had done it. They had fooled an entire nation. 6 American diplomats had spent 85 days in hiding, escaped revolutionary Iran, disguised as a Hollywood film crew, using a fake movie that would never be made. For years, this operation remained classified. The CIA couldn't reveal the truth without endangering assets and methods. Canada took full credit, protecting the secret. It wasn't until 1997, nearly 2 decades later, that the CIA finally declassified the details of Operation Argo. Tony Mendez received the Intelligence Star, one of the CIA's highest honors. In 2012, director Ben Affleck brought the story to the big screen in the film Argo. It won the Academy Award for Best Picture. But as dramatic as Hollywood made it, the real story was even more incredible. This operation revealed something profound about the CIA and intelligence work. Sometimes the most effective weapon isn't guns or bombs, but creativity and deception. The ability to create an entire false reality so convincing that it fools a nation. Today, the Argo story stands as one of the most successful CIA exfiltration operations in history, a testament to the ingenuity, courage, and absurdity of Cold War espionage. A reminder that sometimes the best way to hide the truth is to make it look like fiction. If you find this documentary interesting, please like, subscribe, and comment below where you are watching from.